Some stories are conceived in corporate boardrooms, meticulously planned for months to maximize engagement. Other stories are not conceived at all. They are born written in blood, sweat, and raw instinct, exploding into existence from a single, irrevocable moment of disrespect. This is the story of a dynasty built on the brutal principles of Aikido, a champion's fatal error in judgment, and a legacy that was never a birthright, but a burden that had to be earned. This is the story of Arissa LeBrock. To understand the inferno, you must first understand the mountain. Rhea Ripley, the reigning women's world champion, was more than a title holder, she was a law of nature. She didn't just defeat her opponents, she stripped them of their confidence, dismantled their careers, and left a trail of broken bodies and shattered mystiques in her wake. Her reign was an exhibition of unapologetic dominance. Her mantra was brutally simple: "This is my division." Then there was Arissa LeBrock. To the world, she was a ghost, a name attached to a Hollywood action icon and a supermodel mother. Her public life was a carefully curated gallery of magazine covers and a brief stint on a reality television show. But behind the velvet rope, a secret life was being lived, a life of grueling, anonymous toil. For years, she had dedicated herself to the punishing art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, earning her rank not on a film set, but on the unforgiving mats of competition where pressure and pain forge a new identity. This was not a hobby, it was a calling. It happened on Monday Night Raw, during one of Rhea Ripley's characteristically arrogant victory speeches. Flushed with adrenaline, the championship gleaming on her shoulder, she addressed the whispers of new challengers. "I hear the chatter," she sneered into the microphone, her voice dripping with contempt. "I see the internet talking about new blood. Hollywood royalty, they say." She let out a sharp, mocking laugh. "Let me be crystal clear. The daughter of some action movie star, playing martial arts in her daddy's backyard. That's not a challenger. That's a joke. Arissa LeBrock belongs on a red carpet, not in my ring. She wouldn't last 30 seconds in my world." The crowd gasped. The insult was personal, sharp, and brutally public. Miles away, in her Los Angeles home, Arissa watched the broadcast. The camera zoomed in on Rhea's mocking smile. In that instant, the world of staged glamour and curated beauty evaporated. All that remained was the fighter. 2 days later, Arissa LeBrock was at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando. There was no press release, no social media announcement. She arrived alone, carrying a single duffel bag. When she requested ring time, the coaches saw a model, a celebrity. They expected a photo shoot, a brief vanity project. They got a warrior instead. She stepped into the ring not with other wrestlers, but with seasoned trainers, and the atmosphere in the building shifted from idle curiosity to palpable shock. Her movements were brutally economical, her base solid as stone. She translated her BJJ expertise with a terrifying ease, flowing from throws to submission attempts with a liquid grace no one was prepared for. The whispers started immediately. This wasn't a gimmick. This was real. News of her arrival traveled fast. That evening, a black SUV pulled silently into the private parking lot. Out stepped Steven Seagal. He wore his signature sunglasses, his expression as unreadable as ever. He wasn't there for the cameras. He bypassed the executive offices and went straight to the training ring where Arissa was finishing a session, her body aching, her resolve hardening into steel. He watched her for a long moment, a silent observer from the shadows. He didn't speak of strategy or fame. He walked over, picked up a towel, and handed it to her. "The mind must be a fortress," he said, his voice low and gravelly. "They see a name. They see a face. They do not see the weapon inside. Let them underestimate you. It is their first and most critical mistake." In that moment, he was no longer just her father, he was her sensei, a quiet storm of focus in the eye of a gathering media hurricane. WWE officials, sensing a box office inferno, offered Arissa a non-title exhibition match on Raw chance to prove herself. Arissa accepted. She trained with a relentless fire. guided by a veteran coach who seemed to take her under his wing. Publicly praising her work ethic, he was her guide. Her first true ally in this alien world of sports entertainment. But the night of the match, the betrayal was swift and surgical. As Arissa made her entrance, Rhea Ripley's music erupted through the arena. The champion emerged, a smug grin plastered on her face, and joined the commentary table. Throughout the match, Rhea mocked Arissa's every move. But the true poison came from the special guest commentator, her own coach. He began to pick her apart on the live broadcast, exposing the very weaknesses they had worked on in private. "See, she's still thinking like a BJJ player, not a pro wrestler," he'd say with faint concern. "Her striking is hesitant. She's not ready for this level." It was a public vivisection. The crowd, swayed by the champion and the expert, began to turn on her. Arissa won the match, but it felt like a funeral. She walked backstage into a chilling wall of silence, her victory drowned out by a carefully crafted narrative of her failure. The humiliation was a crucible, a fire that burned away everything but her fighting core. Arissa disappeared. She and her father retreated to his private dojo, a Spartan place of wood, steel, and absolute discipline. The world saw nothing, no social media, no interviews. What happened within those walls was a secret held between a father, the daughter, and the path of the warrior. The training was brutal. Seagal didn't teach her wrestling, he taught her combat philosophy. He stripped her movements down to their most violent essence. They drilled Aikido principles for hours, the art of using an opponent's energy against them, the devastating simplicity of a wrist lock, the crippling efficiency of a single, precise strike. He pushed her beyond pain, past exhaustion, into a state of pure, cold focus. "Do not fight her power," he would repeat, demonstrating a technique with blinding speed. "You will redirect it. She is a hammer. You must become the stone that breaks it." Weeks bled into a month. In the WWE, Arissa LeBrock became a ghost again, the punchline to Rhea Ripley's increasingly arrogant jokes. Then, a package arrived at WWE headquarters. It contained a single, stark white training gi, and a note written on simple rice paper. The message was for Rhea Ripley. "You speak of your ring as your world. You have never faced a warrior trained for a world without ropes. SummerSlam. No rules. No disqualifications. Submission or knockout." It was signed simply, Arissa LeBrock. There was no bravado, no trash talk. It was a threat delivered with the chilling calm of a death sentence. The challenge was so direct, so devoid of WWE pageantry, that Ripley had no choice but to accept. To refuse would be to admit fear. SummerSlam. The stadium was a live wire, a sea of 50,000 fans buzzing for the spectacle. Rhea Ripley entered first, a titan of muscle and swagger, the championship held high. Her confidence was absolute, an aura of invincibility. Then, the arena lights died. A profound silence fell over the tens of thousands of people. A single, haunting taiko drum began to beat a slow, deliberate rhythm like a heart preparing for battle. One spotlight cut through the darkness, hitting the top of the entrance ramp. Arissa stood there, not in wrestling gear, but in a simple black gi. Her hair was pulled back tightly. Her face was a mask of serene intensity. She walked to the ring with the deliberate and hurried pace of a samurai walking to a duel. As she passed the front row, she made eye contact with her father, who sat stone-faced, his sunglasses reflecting the brilliant lights of the arena. He gave a single, almost imperceptible nod. The bell rang. This was not a wrestling match, it was a collision of philosophies. Rhea charged forward, a tidal wave of pure power. Arissa didn't meet the force, she dissolved it. Using a classic Aikido throw, she redirected Rhea's momentum. Sending the champion tumbling and over into the mat, the crowd roared in disbelief. Rhea, furious and embarrassed, unleashed her full arsenal. She used her raw strength to slam Arissa, tossing her across the ring. She caught Arissa with a devastating big boot that sent her crashing to the outside floor. But every time Rhea went for a definitive, match-ending move, Arissa found a counter. She would slip out of a powerbomb attempt, seamlessly transitioning into a joint lock. She would absorb a blow and answer with a series of precise, debilitating strikes to the nerves and pressure points. The story was clear: power versus precision. The irresistible force against the immovable object. The climax was a blur of violence and sheer will. Rio, bleeding from the mouth but still pressing forward, hoisted Arissa onto her shoulders for her finisher. The riptide. It was over. The crowd knew it. But as Rio lifted her, Arissa moved. It wasn't a reversal, it was a dissection. In midair, she locked her legs around Ria's neck and, in the same fluid motion, captured the champion's left arm. Instead of a slam, they crashed to the mat in a tangled heap. But it wasn't a heap, it was a trap. Arissa had Ria in a submission no one in the arena had ever seen before: a complex, agonizing fusion of a triangle choke and a shoulder lock, leveraging every part of her body to apply unbearable pressure. Rhea Ripley, the unbreakable champion, the queen of carnage, was caught. There was no escape. Her face, contorted in shock and agony, told the whole story. For a few agonizing seconds, her pride refused to yield. Then, with a frantic, desperate energy, she tapped her hand against the mat, once, twice, 3 times. The bell rang. A wave of stunned silence washed over the entire stadium. Arissa LeBrock did not celebrate. She released the hold, rose to her feet, and stood over the defeated champion. Her expression wasn't one of triumph, but of grim finality. She gave a short, formal bow to the 4 corners of the ring, a gesture of respect learned in a distant dojo. The camera found Rhea Ripley, sitting up, her face a canvas of disbelief and shattered pride. The camera then cut to Steven Seagal in the crowd. He slowly took off his sunglasses. And for the first time all night, a small, knowing smile touched his lips. Arissa picked up the Women's World Championship belt. She didn't hoist it in the air like a trophy. She held it for a moment, looking at it not as a prize, but as a responsibility. She had not come for fame. She had not come to honor a legacy. She had come for respect. And in the stunned silence of 50,000 people, she had taken it. The age of the queen was over. The era of the warrior had begun.